Welcome back to the Futurist New Deal podcast. I'm here with a special guest all the way from Lagos, Nigeria. And I'm here with Ósìnàkáchì Kálù. And we're going to talk about the philosophy of fearism and as it relates to futurism. And our talk is titled Fearism in the Age of Homo Deus, a reference to the great historian and future historian and political philosopher, Yuval Harari. And I'm really looking forward to this talk. How are you, Ósìnàkáchì?
I'm fine. So how are you doing?
Pretty good.
Okay.
I thought I would. Sorry?
Good to have you on your podcast.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for agreeing to do this. It was wonderful of you to agree. And I'm glad that I can learn a little bit more about yourself and your expertise and your philosophy, and I think that these insights relate very directly to the ideas of techno-optimists here in the United States. So I think people will enjoy this quite a lot. So I thank you. I thank you for agreeing to do this.
Okay.
When we spoke earlier today, we talked a little bit about the philosophy of Yuval Harari. Tell us about this writer and how he has inspired you, and what your relationship is to this writing.
Okay. I got to know Harari's works through my friend Chukwu Augustus. Actually, he's the one that introduced me to futurism and transhumanism. In our days where we study philosophy, he often talked about this singularity of transhumanism, mentioning people, great names, even though Harari saw. And I picked interest, especially in his works, major works, Sapiens and Homo Deus. So, and this Homo Deus, there's pretty some theories and principles that raises the eyebrow, because for a philosopher, every situation raises a critical question, especially his concepts of man becoming God and the idea of deityism. These two particular concepts draw my attention towards really understanding what he's talking about as a philosopher and a historian. So these are the bottom line, and these two concepts attract more fearism thinkers to reflect upon what he's talking about and how it will affect humanity, especially in the future, because our place in futurism is the fear state of humanity in the future. The fear state of humanity in the future. Are we going to have an age of fear climbers or fear-based society? So that's just that.
Excellent. And as you mentioned a moment ago, this work Homo Deus particularly is of interest to technologists and people who are taking interest in futurism studies. And this is a book that I've read, that a lot of people in this community have read and enjoyed, and there's a lot of insights there. You also related this to your philosophy of fearism, and I'd like to get back to that in just a moment. But you have some events coming up. You have a conference coming up. I'd like to know more about this conference. I think I'm jealous. I wish I could come to Lagos and attend.
No, the conference is not taking place in Lagos, Nigeria.
Oh, yes.
The conference will be taking place in Kigali, Rwanda, because I think Rwanda is one of the fastest growing economy, especially in technological awareness and all that. And they're growing independently. I think the president is doing something that's pretty good, and investors are coming in there because the president is open to new ideas and all that. In Africa, I think he's really doing well. And the conference, I think you can still attend remotely, and if you wish to talk, we can also give you a slot to talk. Also, and also we would also like to partner if you wish to air the podcast of the conference, and we can still also give chance because people are actually picking interest. I think this is the first of its kind that futurists, transhumanists, longevity experts, and vertical farming experts will come into Africa to talk about the reality of the moment. The main goal of this conference is to prepare Africa for Industry 4.0. That is fourth industrial revolution. We want to transform Africa to create the awareness, to awaken the consciousness, because consciousness is consciousness of something and not nothing. So that's one of the important goals of this conference.
Very nice, very nice. And we want to prepare the United States for that too. We're not quite as prepared as we should be, considering how much technology and capital is here. And I'd like to say again, that's the Techno-Scientific Awareness Conference, and it is October 7th to 11th this year, 2019. And sorry, I misspoke a moment ago. That's in Kigali or Rwanda. And I would love to speak. I would love to speak remotely. That would be wonderful. An excellent suggestion.
Okay.
Yes. So check that out, folks. You can participate in many ways in conferences like this, and certainly if you are in the vicinity of Rwanda, you would have a wonderful time, and maybe travel and see this lovely city as well.
Sorry, I have to chip in something. You know, this conference also is part of the October longevity movement, because the International Longevity Alliance prepare something like a conference. In our discussion segment to talk about the longevity in all parts of the world, and this conference was selected to take charge of that in Africa. So we've signed a deal which will publish on our websites, the conference sites, where people can check in on that. It's part of, so this conference also is not just a theoretical conference. It's packed with techno and biotechnological exhibitions. So if you have any practical experimentation that you want to show to the world, you can bring it on and we show that to the world, because it's divided. The 4 days is very active day of participation, of intellectual rumination, and the practical exhibition. So great minds will be talking there. People, the likes of Era Pastor and my friend Aubrey de Grey will be talking at the conference, and some other persons. And a strong transhumanists will be talking. The presidential candidates and the presidents of the U.S. Transhumanist Party will be there to talk. So it's not an easy project. Also, and you know, University of Rwanda is one of the greatest universities in Africa, so that's why I chose there. And the vice chancellor is a scientist. So
very nice.
So
that's a good location.
Yes, it's a good location, and also they have more than 13 campuses. The university has more than 13 campuses, so we hope to use that. It's a good venue for the conference. That's why I choose there.
Very nice, and that's a good group of folks. Some great scientists and futurists that you mentioned, and certainly some of them need no introduction in this community. Certainly, Aubrey de Grey. That's pretty cool. Very nice, very nice. So yes, folks, get involved. Everyone should be getting involved in these futurism events. One thing that I hope we talk a little bit about in the course of this discussion is the value of public health initiatives and life extension initiatives. And this kind of thing doesn't happen in a vacuum. Improving public health outcomes the world around. It happens because people take an interest in it. So that starts with attending events like this conference, the International Conference of Techno-Scientific Awareness. It's going to be an exciting time, a lot of good people, and I'm glad we got a chance to talk about that first. Let's talk a little bit more about the philosophy of fearism. Explain this. So this is the word fear. The idea is that that fear is a driver of human affairs. Explain that a little bit more for our listeners who aren't familiar with this.
Okay, you know, on human studies in the academic milieu, people have been talking about fear as a negative emotion. And we believe that the psychologists are better placed to talk about fear, or the sociologists are better placed to talk about fear, or the biologists, they are better placed to talk about fear. But there's something that people don't actually understand about fear, and that is what the philosophers of fearisms are here to put right. You know, In the academic milieu, a system comes into place when other system fails. And that's why we are a rational being. We think, and we are there to deconstruct and reconstruct ideas. So when you talk about fear as a negative emotion, we relate to fear. But we know whatever we are as species, especially our major aim for survival is driven by fear. We know that. And it's an indisputable and unargumentative fact. Now, when you say that fear is a negative emotion, it's quite a fallacious statement. Fallacy of composition. You are using the part to justify the whole. So now, the fearism thinker believe that it is dual. It's both a positive and a negative emotion depending on the subject, which is the human person that manages this consciousness, this awareness that flashes on the mind. Now, when you talk about fear, the Shuba, the propounder of philosophy of fearism, the Nepali thinker who is based in Hong Kong, say that life is conducted, directed, and controlled by fear. And that's true. So that you are even interviewing me, trying to brand yourself and all that, your quest to survive is because you don't want to be poor. You want to have money to pay your bills. And also that you go to hospitals because you don't want to die. Even this longevity, scientific experimentation and innovation is because we want to survive as a better species. Even the investigation that people go, even people that invent ammunition is because they want to protect themselves. So it is all about everything that we do, our activities is driven by fear. So people can't just say that it's a negative emotion. It depends on the human person that pilots, that direct the emotion. That's why we need there is their need of fearism thinkers. We are there to defear people. So when you defear someone, you help the one to manage his or her fear by giving the one a good fear management education. Now, philosophy of fearism, there's a little bit debate. Some thinkers say that it shouldn't be called philosophy of fearism. Some say it should be called fearism because it's in itself a philosophy. So when you say philosophy of fearism, you are standing it out. But when you say fearism, you make it an aspect of philosophy. You get that? Now, because it's focused on studying fear. Now it studies what the relationship between fear and living organisms, and you can't separate the fear factors from the fear subjects. That is the human person. So we don't see fear as inherent in man. We see fear as that which is outside. So when you perceive it, it comes into your mind. It's all about how your perception, your mental conditioning. So it is what you perceive, because David Hume, you know David Hume, the British empiricist, say that the mind is like a stage of theater. So if the mind is a stage of theater, he opined the theory which is called the copy principle. The copy principle, where he discussed how our mind perceives something and we get the impression. So in my own theory, which is analogous to this, I talked about fearocopy, how our mind copy fear from fear factors. And fear factors could be what we can imagine and what is there, what we can see and what we can imagine. So when you imagine this or see this, it gives you an impression. And some persons, the way I perceive reality is quite different from the way you perceive reality. So the impression it gives us determines how we react towards it. And when you have a good fear management educator that gives you a good fear management system, so you can know how to feel in a position and how to troubleshoot some things that you don't want to affect you, and also how to use them positively. So fear is a motivator. Even a motivational speaker, there's a way a motivational speaker will talk to you. If you don't utilize it very well, you make mistake. If a motivational speaker tells you you should be courageous and brave, it is not telling you to go into the den of the lion. So it's two different things altogether. So people shouldn't just see fear as negative emotion. Fear is both a positive and negative emotion. It depends on the person that is controlling it, the person that is using the subject matter and not the object itself. So let me stop there.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And these reductive views, I think, of high emotion and of fear that we have, and these taboos around these things, they prevent us from fully understanding who we are and what we are doing in some cases. And this is a big blind spot that people have. It also relates to disciplines that are of interest to futurists, people who are interested in reverse engineering the human mind or mind uploading. These related disciplines that are not fully developed at this time, but people are devoting a lot of time and effort to them. They sometimes forget that the human experience is very much driven by these hormones and these feelings, and it's not just a brain in a jar. We are creatures that exist bound to a physical body, and we have this is a serious consideration. Some people say that we won't fully be able to reverse engineer the human experience in silico in that way because we won't immediately be able to recreate those types of hormone-driven experiences and those kind of physical and earthbound sensations and experiences. So it's a really fascinating parallel there to your philosophy, and I think that this does add a lot of insights to these discussions. Let me ask you something. Shifting gears back to a little bit to the introduction of your conference. Are there any specific disciplines in the hard sciences, presumably, that you would like to see on the African continent being focused on for technological development? What do you think is the most important area for research? For emerging institutions and so forth, and where would you place public health and emerging biomedicine in that ranking?
Okay, it's when you talk about, we all know that life is a chief value. So this is an underlying factor. This is an underlying factor that life is a chief value. So in our value system, we set parameters, and you know that without life, you can't advance in all the technological research, invention, innovation, and all that. So when you talk about public health system, it is something that is very essential. That is why when I was interviewed by the International Longevity Alliance last week, I told them that we need to collaborate actively with World Health Organization and some of all these institutions that talks about life. So now, the public health system, when you talk about public health, you need experts. And last time, when we talked previously, you talked about why governments need to get involved, corporate bodies and all that. There are some persons that have the ideas that know what to do and how to go about it, but there is no fund to do that. So, but when you see a society, we live in a society that don't actually understand where the world is going. You understand what I'm talking about. We live in a society where you have leaders who doesn't understand what you're talking about. What you're talking about appears like the allegory of the cave, which Plato talked about. So it's just as if you are talking about what is impossible. So people who doesn't understand it need the basic. And what's the basic? They need a kind of a reorientation, the constructioning of the mind, and the philosophy. Now, the Shupra talked about the philosophizing people. So if you want to de-philosophize someone, you need to make the person understand what you have, which is different from what you already know. People, you see, there is this proverb that says that there's this saying or epigram that I normally read that said that we should fear man of one book, someone that is just one knowledge, and a one knowledge-driven person should be feared. You know,
a monomaniacal person in ideological terms.
yes. Now, the person don't really understand, have a broad knowledge of reality. So now you need to educate them. The African society, I keep on saying this, is very good. Individually, we can, as individual, we can compete with anybody in the world. We can compete with anybody in the world. We are smart, we are intelligent, and we are brilliant. So what we are lacking is what leadership. Like for instance, now when you come to Nigeria, we have best brain. We have people like Felix Ekweke and some persons. We have great minds, intellectual people who are making waves in the world. But we have the problem we are having is government. So some theories, your principles, or some researches are not supported. So when you say where should people focus in the African continent, I would say we need the awareness. We need these bodies like the Singularity Universities. We need these bodies like the International Longevity Alliance. We need this body like TAFFDs. We need this body like future discussion or foresight societies to come down to Africa and other third world countries. Because you talk about developed countries, you talk about developing, and we also have underdeveloped. And it doesn't mean that they don't have personalities that can talk about this, but they need to just flash the light that will follow properly. So now they need these people to talk to the leaders, to create this awareness, to go into negotiation, to show practical exhibition and not just theories. We need the people to get the consciousness of what is happening. And that is why TLDS is. So TLDS, that's what sparked my mind to forming the Transitory Agora for future discussion. And thank God for Christopher K. Halley, who actually helped in registering it in the United States of America and all that. So it was there, and Tom Rose. So these people are the people that understand what it means. And I need people like you too to help in what? Creating this awareness. It's like, oh, TFDS is doing something good. And they're taking this message down to Africa, taking this message down to Asia, because I want to make a kind of a continental tour before we have a summit. And we want to hold on to one thing and see what we've achieved thus far. And history will not forget us. And it's just that. So it's not all about Africa, it's all about the whole world. Because if the whole world is not moving positively, those that are not in the balanced stage will now disrupt what is happening in the balanced stage. So we need to understand this. So it's not about Africa, it's not about Asia, it's all about humanity. It's all about humanity. So the question should be, what are we to do to balance healthcare in the world? So we need, like I told you previously, I said, if the whole world, some of all this society don't work hard in helping some other persons in other parts of the world, Karl Marx's problem will magnify. Karl Marx was talking about class struggle, but now we're going to have societal struggle. We're going to have continental struggle. We're going to have what? Country struggle. And you see this trying to settle and be like the other country. And it turns to what we call enmity and all this. And people should have should forget about wrong ideologies, and we should be open together. We should be open to the other. And you know, Karl Popper talked about this open society. We need to be open so that we get awareness about what is happening in the world and educate people. We should understand the importance of education. We should know that education is not all about schooling. It's all about schooling. So from the Latin educo educare, it means leading out of ignorance. So many persons are living under ignorance. So we need to do that and help. And that's the important thing there.
Very nice. Yes. And a few moments ago, you mentioned the problem of a poor leadership in governance and political corruption. And we've seen increasingly in the United States over recent decades a move towards kleptocracy, a similar set of concerns, a move towards irresponsible governance, and it's one of the main reasons why I chose to run for president of the United States with the Transhumanist Party. And my platform, the Futurist New Deal, it has many key points that people can read about in our pamphlet, The Futurist New Deal for America. But one of the ideas to combat this corruption is to allow for e-voting, blockchain secured voting in every state, an i-voting system, and a number of other reforms in e-governance and e-services, and other reforms in the United States to end dark money, a source of great political corruption here in the United States. But this is also a very serious problem in the United States that you mentioned, and it has ripple effects in the ways that you described as well. And the Futurist New Deal for America was conceived at its earliest genesis as a program that would set the stage in the United States for the kind of better public health outcomes that you also described and endorsed. Let's talk a little bit more about the African continent. I think I should preface this by saying you are in Lagos, a lovely city, many fine universities, a very large city, 16 million people. Americans are often quick to overlook the development that does exist on the African continent, and it is incredible. Americans sometimes have a reductive view of our friends around the world, and that is unfortunate. But one thing that is discussed sometimes in these conversations, where we have less than optimal public health comes and have other outcomes now here in the United States, and there's work to be done everywhere, is the concept of leapfrogging, a concept that emerging technology and rapid changes in technology might allow a municipality or area that has very little public health service, very little access to formalized healthcare, to become very quickly data science driven and intervention driven and oversight driven, using advanced technology in ways maybe that other parts of the world don't use because they have these institutions that already exist that are resistant to change. What do you think about this idea of one civilization leapfrogging over another?
Okay, some of these questions of overlooking the other continents or countries is something problematic, and personally, I'm not happy with that. And I think the United States of America, they are actually doing something which is not good. Administratively wise, because some of the fallacious policies that they make is somehow disheartening and it's affecting people. For instance, when you say because you got to be persons that are doing something that is bad, you now lay a ban on the country as a whole. How the country have been contributing to the development of your country? For instance, when you talk about Philip Amagwali, he's from my tribe, an Igbo man. You can Google or make researches about him. So what about him and other persons? So you don't just say Nigerians or that. It's somehow disheartening. Don't just say Nigerians totally bad. So now, talking about leapfrogging and all that, I've said earlier that the people involved should know not just the concept that is trending, but that which will work in their environment. It's very essential. We have our own African science, and we need to look into that. We have our herbs. We have African orthopedics. That we have um, uh, native doctors, not from the view that people understand the native doctor to be. We have people who really understand nature. And I think we can also harness this and make it a more scientific. I'm not calling it pseudoscience. When you call them pseudoscience, sis, you are corrupting the minds of some persons. But there are so many things, like I discussed with Christopher Kerhale and the current president, Eric, the current president of the Lifeboat Foundation. I told him that there are so many things in Africa that people need to look at. Africa has pressure, although things happened in the past. So, so things happened in the past, but we are not finished yet. We are, we are, we are getting aware and prepared always to do what? To match standard and to even overtake some countries scientifically. And that means we are working hard, we are studying. But just like you said, some policies are affecting people. I never knew that you're contesting for you have interest. You have become the interest of becoming the president of the United States of America. Thank God I'm speaking with the presidential candidates today for the first time. So that's
Well,
by the way.
I
So
hope we have protections in our party specifically that allows for international supporters to vote in the United States Transhumanist Party. So I hope you'll look into that and consider voting for me.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about
It's an online vote.
collaboration. Yeah, we'll talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
collaboration.
we should.
Okay. Yeah.
I hope to do all of that.
So, like for us to get that, if there are restrictions because of a political greeds, because one thing with the politicians, if I'm into oil as a president and I'm making money from that into oil business, and you're talking about investing or producing an electric car, I wouldn't like you to talk about such policy. I will connive with my kitchen cabinet and crush that down, trash it out. I don't know if you understand the example I'm giving. Are you following?
A little bit, a little
Okay.
bit.
I say, for instance, if I'm a president of the United States of America or president of Nigeria, and I'm into oil drilling, or I'm into the oil sector, and someone comes and starts talking about inventing uh, uh, what they call electric cars and something of that nature, any machine or device that doesn't support the use of fossil whatever or petrol, I will be against that. You know that. So if
Yes.
you have anything, or as a politician, I don't have a good portfolio, and I know that my major aim is to rig election. When you bring about digital voting, I will support that.
Very nice.
So
Yeah.
if you are talking about bringing new ideas that doesn't cohere for the corrupt minds, they won't like that. So, and there is always a problem, especially from the religious aspect, religious viewpoint. People don't actually understand the mission of the transhumanists. They
It's
see
true.
them as people that want to be superhuman. And I'm struggling, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. So I'm struggling to explain this to people. So, and I try to use these version of the Bible where God invited us, saying, "Come, let us reason together." So God wants people that reason, wants people to um, get to a certain level of consciousness, so as not to disturb him as such. We can do some things on ourselves and then leave the rest what we cannot do. So I try to explain this to them. So we need to explain this very well, because most people see them as people who want to create themselves, turn themselves to God. People who want to be God. But I said no. I said no, that's not the mission. When you talk about transhuman, it means They want to help to solve the inequality, let's say, what the normal, if we are in a normal state, we can't solve. They want to help both the body and the society to live better as species. So you give that basic knowledge so that they understand from that basic knowledge, as they transcend, they get to understand better. So when you talk about leapfrogging, I think some of the things that that will lead to that will be invention of people having the knowledge of inventing disruptive technologies that will help in solving their problem, which the other people overlooked. Because you made reference of this country and the other country. I think that also you've created a class. And this is what I'm trying to bridge. And that is what transhumanists are trying to bridge. They don't want that separation. And one thing I've understood, I've spoken with quite a lot of transhumanists. You understand? I've spoken, and they are very humble. They're very humble. They're very humble. They listen to everybody. They are open to knowledge. And that's just that. So if everybody, every individual in the world start being open, start paying attention to the other, to get and to know his or her problem, I think humanity will be better. So all these things like leapfrogging and all these theories will not be coming in. So we evolve collectively. So here now, for instance, when it comes to election, because of selfish interest, you see people like some states, some countries funding for an illiterate to rule the underdeveloped and the developing country. That is incredible. The people know the enlightened minds, but some of these developed countries won't allow the intelligent ones to rule, because when they rule, they will be prevented from using the other people. You don't use societies, you don't use people as a means.
Yeah, and that's a feature of generally kleptocracy and oligarchy does not have a meritocracy. It's unfortunate.
I don't want to make a
categorical
statement. I don't want to make a categorical statement. Because for instance, now, I was invited to a conference in France, Paris, France. So they didn't give me visa, so I was mad. I wasn't given. They said that the condition of my stay wasn't clearly stated. You can Google about me. You can check. It's quite disheartening. I was embarrassed, so I had to get an immigration lawyer in Nigeria. So all those things, and they didn't. I told them that I would continue saying this, and anywhere I go in the world, I would talk about it, because it's quite I was embarrassed, because you can't have prepared for the conference, and people want to listen to African speaks. People want to know the problem of Africans, and the little opportunity. I was the only African that was given a slot to speak in Paris. So, and you want to restrict me. It's quite annoying. So it's bad. Okay, now the Lifeboat Foundation invited me to US to come and talk about fair reason on my work. That when I won the fair reason my award, I was invited to the United States, and to Christopher K. Halley paid promised to sponsor. He paid for everything. He said, okay, I will stay at my hotel, he will pay, or I'll stay, spend some time with him in the house and all that. He even paid for the visa and everything, paid for my passports, international passports. So guess what happened? I went to the embassy. I was invited for an interview. I was asked, why are you here? I said, I'm going for a visit. I'm going for a visit because it's a tourist visa. So I told them I want to go and talk about it. I was so sincere and honest and telling them the truth. You know what? I think the stupidity of those working there is this. They like people that tell them the lies when they get to the embassy. So I was, when they get to the consulate, sorry. So I was there telling them why I'm going there. And they denied me the visa. One stupid little girl there, you know what he asked? She asked me if I'm married. I said no. I'm not married. She now said, okay, we can't give you. Okay, she asked me again, how did I get in touch with Christopher Kirkland? We are in a techno-scientific age, for crying out loud. Must I be in the United States to meet people? So we have Facebook, we have LinkedIn, we have this social media platform that connected us. So the most important thing is check me if I'm in a crime list, if I am a terrorist, if I am a bad person, if I have any crime rates. So that should be the basic lesson. Or if I have enough fund to go for this journey, that's what you're supposed to check. I'm not saying I'm not married and no reason, and I'm giving a paper. So, and that's very crazy. So
yeah, it's
we're like 350 that came for the. I think only 6 person was given visa. That's bad. So and that makes me say, okay.
It's absurd. It's increasingly the mandate of the present presidential administration here in the United States to do this kind of thing, to find the flimsiest excuse to refuse to allow people to travel to the United States or live in the United States. And you, for example, you're an accomplished presenter and organizer in these areas. It only takes a moment to do a Google search and see that, but people are just making excuses. It's foolishness. It is foolishness. Yes, I understand that frustration. I can certainly imagine that. A few moments before that, we were talking about concerns about a digital divide and how we want to avoid that. Let me ask you this question. What do you think that the role of legislating and government bodies versus corporations and the private sector is in achieving these kind of technology goals, maybe around public health or maybe around other advancements that we share and that we have discussed? Where do you place those two, private sector versus public sector?
Okay. First of all,
thinking specifically of Nigeria, perhaps, if you
I would just make a kind of analogy and I will contextualize it in Nigeria. Do you get that?
Yes.
So now, Hart, a philosopher of law, in the United States, Oxford University, talked about what? He talked about law and morality. I'm not trying to talk about law and morality here, but I want to take out something from what he explained. So he talked about when you have people who don't actually understand what the society needs, as lawmaker, it becomes problematic.
The job is difficult.
Now, you can't evolve quickly when you don't have intelligent lawmakers.
Very true.
People who don't actually understand what it means to be in that particular time that you are as species. Now, you don't need aged people, old people who have analog mind to be leaders in the technological age. So the consciousness is not there. I keep on talking about consciousness and awareness. Now, when you come to Nigeria, 2 years ago, someone was paid millions of naira to come and teach our lawmakers how to use Android phones. It's crazy. Someone was paid to come and teach them how to use Android phones. Most of them don't know how to use Android phones. The president of Nigeria, out of 2011, doesn't know how to send text message through phone. Send a text message through phone. Now, are you talking about lawmakers who are just businessmen who never went to school? So you talk about, okay, look at what is happening in Nigeria. You can research on your own. I don't know if you are following CNN or watch Nigerian news. Our president doesn't have a certificate. Never went to school. So you see, when you watch him speak, What is policies? This is the nation where we have our thinkers, great minds. We have Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. We have people who are respected in the world. We have Omoyele Sowore, who was just detained recently for organizing a protest. So we have people, we have Professor Wole Soyinka, and many people. We have Ndubisi Ekweke, we have Oluwole, and all that. People who are intelligent, we have great minds. We have great minds here, but they are not allowed to rule. So and when you live in a society where you have the percentage of persons there, they are hungry, there you can easily manipulate them with little cash, because their problem is not about the future. They want to survive at that time. They need food on their table, so they want to eat. So this inequality of a thing, and this struggle that you're talking about, the public and the private and all this, needs to start from the grassroots. The problem should be solved from the grassroots. The transhumanists may not survive in the United States. Their bid of becoming presidents may not really come true. If they want to make it, they need to start a grassroots work, like penetrating, fixing people as lawmakers, entering the politics very well, as you people have started. And I think we need to be more pragmatic in our actions, because these people, they have the money, they can throw money during their campaigns, they can use money to confuse people, but as the transhumanists do the technical work, they can still also know how to deconstruct people's minds. So you can do that technically. So when you talk about, okay, lawmakers and this, I think I've answered the question. You can't, a lawmaker who doesn't understand what is happening in the techno-scientific age cannot make law. And I've cited examples as that most lawmakers in Africa don't even have this awareness of technology that you're talking about. So what they do here, even in their ministerial appointments, if you support me in my time, in my campaign time, you fund money, I'll give you appointment based on the amount of money that you contributed during my campaign. That's quite crazy. And so the meritocracy is not the case. You don't bring someone that made the position, but you do is the person that funded the money, that funded very well during my campaign. And so the self-centered self-interest now transcends the societal interest. It becomes problematic. So
it is extremely problematic here as well.
The problem of the idea of collective responsibility, individual responsibility, and the ideology of what? The ideology of national interest is not there. So you see, party interest placed above national interest. So my political party is more important than the national interest. So it's problematic. So we need to look into all these things, because when you say kitchen cabinet, those who are in this, that's the problem. You see, a president, because a president has is in this party, the lawmakers must be in that same party, or they will be struggling opposition party, and this, they will be struggling numbers. So those things isn't the case. We need smart people to rule the world. We need smart people who understand where we are to rule the world. We need people who can guide and support the advancement of technology to rule the world. But there is a problem there. I have a problem with transhumanism. And that is my own problem. I question some of the things, some of the inventions. My problem there is we should tame crazy inventions. We should also look at the moral aspect of technologism. The moral,
like AI safety, for example.
Yes. So the moral aspect of it should be looked at. So we shouldn't just ooh la la, we welcome everything. Just anything you can invent, bring it on. So we should look at it. So and that is the ethical aspect of transhumanism. There should be groups that look at it critically, so that we know how to advise the world properly. Because when transhumanists become leaders, I think what we are doing also is what Plato said that the society will be good unless philosophers become kings. I think that is what we're struggling, and it's always problematic because you can never get satisfied. So it's a great mind. You are like a gadfly. You continue to pay till everything gets better.